Yes.
So let's be very British. Let's talk about the weather. How's the weather your end?
We did this last week. We get to carry it on. That's very British.
let's be very British. How's the weather
last week we
end?
had the heat wave and we were all passing out. This week we're in typical British fashion. It lasted all of a week, and now we're back to very classic British weather. It's wet, it's cold, it's grey. It can't decide if it's raining or not, so it only seems to do it sporadically for a moment. It's pretty standard British affair, I'd say. British summertime.
You said last week, like, you're solar powered. You need that ray, that sun. Do you notice immediate effects with the change of the weather?
No, but I really feel it in the winter. So after it's been about 3 months of rain and cloud, then I really it starts to wear on me a little bit. But a week here, a week there, even a month, it's not a problem. And then living in England, I've always said, if you can't get anything done because it's rainy and cloudy, you're living in the wrong country. You can't live here if you can't deal with rain and cloud, because that's the majority of the time, right? But no, so I don't feel it immediately. I just know that when the sun is on me, I'm better for it. So if I can get that more often, then I try to, but it's not the end of the day.
I find it's actually the reverse. Like, I don't notice the sun on me as such, but I notice when the weather changes like this. I don't know if it's an atmospheric thing goes on, but I notice myself and people around me, it's like you're hit with a lethargic bat, and I notice it when it changes like this, and people around you can just sense there's something like, obviously with the rain, everyone goes indoors, don't they? There's less, people in a hurry to get in and out of cars and indoors. So there's physical changes, but you don't notice that yourself.
Not as much. I'm aware of it, but I've tried to make a real point of not letting it be something that stops me. Just because it's just too much of it in the UK, too much rain to let it. So I've consciously push that feeling down of letting it get to me too much.
I've written it down actually. What's it called? Gong or something like that. There's a Chinese thing. I used to see this medicine man years ago, and he said about it. And there's a Chinese, like, they have a lot of alternative medicine, and there's a knowledge and expression of saying about the change to shift this Gong effect, or I might not be using the right word. But yeah, how's your week been?
The week's been fine. It's not been, I would say it's been a very undramatic week. I don't know about you, but with everything that's been going on in the world for the past few months, this week has felt very, that was cute. I missed that. I caught just the edge of it.
Poppy, do it again. Has missed it. We've got a Poppy in a penguin outfit for those that can't see it.
Good to see you. How are you? Good, excellent. That's all we needed. Amazing. Yeah, it felt very undramatic, for want of a better word. It was just a very standard week albeit of the new standard. Nothing in particular jumped out at me. Did you notice anything this week other than the shift in weather?
Yeah, obviously there is that, but my word this week is adaptability.
Okay.
And I really noticed that over the last week. And I would like to think I'm quite a resourceful, adaptable person. However, I do like to always order the same thing from a restaurant, from like a takeaway or that kind of thing. I know what I like, but I'd like to feel I'm an adaptable person. And in this climate that we've lived in, for a good few months now, maybe indefinitely going forward, I've adapted. But I've noticed how some of the world isn't adapting, and some people are sort of sticking their heels in. And yesterday we had a kid come to the club to get his belt, and he's just waiting for it all to go back to normal. He's he's got some additional needs and everything. He's waiting for it to all go back to normal. Which is quite often the case. They like a certain structure and everything else, and I don't think it's going to be. And I think we're going to, unless we all learn, or is that just life itself? If we don't learn to adapt, then we're going to be stuck, aren't we?
Yeah, I think this is a bit of an extreme example of it that's bringing it to more people's attention. Because I think when people hear that adapt or overcome, it falls on deaf ears a lot of the time because they don't really see it affect them directly as much. It may be every now and then something happens in life to affect you directly, but I think where this has been such a worldwide thing, and we are all, for better or for worse, affected, it's definitely something that more people are noticing, that there's certain people who are continuing to manage or to thrive, and there are certain people who are just being left behind. And it's not, you can't say it's their fault, but there's definitely a thing about personal responsibility and taking it on one's shoulders to make sure you do what you need to do to survive, to get on with stuff. And now it's beyond survive, isn't it? Because it's a case of, well, you got to make sure your kids are happy. You got to make sure that you're healthy. You just have to find a way to do these things within the confines of what's changed.
Yeah, and people can obviously listen to these podcasts at different times, so might be listening back when it will change again. But I'm really intrigued to see, like, if we've had 6 months of this now, what the next 6 months of it's gonna bring. You know, what's changed in this 6 months, what could change again in another 6 months, and the adaptability that would be needed there.
Yeah, my word, if yours has been adapting, my word has been acceptance. I'm trying to just understand, and I guess it's part of the adapting process, that we can't do everything the way we would want to do them, but we can still do things. And I think that's something that's really important for people to get a handle on for their own well-being, just for your mental headspace. I think if you're always in a place of resistance where you're trying to fight against what is, that's just a bit of a miserable place to live your life in all the time. I don't know if it's necessary to just constantly be pushing against it.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
We spoke about that place, that pressure plate, a little while ago, didn't we? About being in a place of resistance. But this is different. This isn't like striving to make yourself a better person and doing the extra hours, or saying things to people that need to be said, or whatever it is. This is different. This is more of an external thing, isn't it? What I was talking about there are more internal factors that you can control yourself, the way that you think, the way that you plan your day. You control that, but these are factors which I don't feel are in one's control, that you have to adapt to.
Do you remember the film Liar Liar with Jim Carrey?
Oh, I'm going to say I've seen it, but I can't be sure. I'm not sure.
Where
I remember it coming out.
His kid made a wish that he couldn't tell a lie. So the whole film is based around him being forced to tell the truth.
It's quite an old film now, isn't it?
We're talking early 90s. And there's the first part of it where he's figuring out that he can only tell the truth. He's trying to resist it, and he gets this pen, and he tries to say that the pen is red, even though it's a blue pen. And then he's trying to write that it's red, but his body is just forced to write that it's blue. And he basically beats himself up over this pen, trying to convince himself that this pen is red, even though he knows, and everyone knows, that it's blue. And that's what I kind of feel like people are doing. There's some very clear, very obvious evidence of what's going on in the world right now, but people are so reluctant to accept it. Then you hear all this stuff about conspiracy theories and everything being done by the government and all of that. And it feels like you're fighting against something that just doesn't need to be fought against. I don't know. I might be completely in the wrong with that one. I'm not sure. But I just think, what is the point in putting so much energy into resisting what's happening right now?
Yeah, outside of your control.
Outside of your control. Yes, yes.
Like we did the podcast with Jaddy on Black Lives Matters. I think we all have a say in that. We all have a control over how we think. This pandemic, this virus, this whatever, it's come along. We just got to deal with it, haven't we?
Yeah, it's hard. And I feel bad that sometimes we always tend to talk about it, but I don't see how people can't talk about it, because it affects everything. It's like it's all encompassing at the moment. So to try and, I understand sometimes you need to do things to escape from it, but to pretend like it's not happening, which is what I feel like some people are doing. They're just pretending like it's done. I don't understand that thought process, other than it being like the animal sticking their head in the sand and hoping for the predator to go away.
Yeah. I can see you, you can see me.
Yeah, it's a strange attitude, but who knows?
And